This video is a film study look at the Ravens' newest outside corner acquisition, Jaire Alexander, an exciting signing, if you ask me, from a free agent standpoint for a lot of reasons. The ceiling that he offers if he's healthy for 15, 16, 17 games and then in the playoffs, wherever the Ravens end up. The salary price point is quite unbelievable, if you ask me. I'm going to give you some initial evaluations or thoughts of mine based on some film that I was able to watch. Got two games from 2024 that I went through. What was available, I should say, because he spent most of the time unavailable or not actually dressed on the field. Significantly high awareness in zone, bordering on maybe a scary ability to break on the football when his back is to the sideline sometimes. Um, he seems to have an awareness of when he can do so, and I'm not saying meaning he has safety help over the top. What I mean when I make that statement is he understands the route concept that's coming. I think this is a guy that knows the play, or at least understands the situation and recognizes that he's not going to see a sluggo route or something that's going to fake him and then go deep over the top. He seems to have an incredible amount of confidence when he's healthy. The short area quickness and agility to me is incredible. He's very adept at changing directions. Really, I should say, breaking downhill to go get the football when the quarterback has delivered it, when the ball is in the air. He's got a high level of confidence. At times, really, that doesn't even do it justice. He's borderline arrogant with how he plays at times. And I mean that in a good way. He almost seems to want to throw the football. He seems to want you to throw the football to him. This is a guy with a playmaker mindset, if you ask me. I did a post on Twitter or X with some 2024 film, and I'm going to reference one play. It's an empty set, 1st and 10, week 3 against Tennessee. Granted, the quarterback is Will Levis, but he's lined up against DeAndre Hopkins, and there's literally no backpedal at all. So, what does that mean? I think it means he had extreme assuredness that Hopkins wasn't going to run something deep in maybe the split, the formation, the situation, whatever. I think this is a very prepared football player from the standpoint of what he recognizes on the field, both pre and post snap. I'm separating that from A, his athleticism, his athletic gifts, which are tremendous, and B, his availability, which has, of course, been a problem and the reason why he was available in the first place. Let's get the film started here. Generally going to focus this on 2023 and 2022 film. He did not play very much last season, 2024. Two of the interceptions I have for him on film are red zone situations where he's kind of ending up where he's not supposed to be. Now, he's covering Gabe Davis here, who's since moved on to the Jags and then been released there. As Josh Allen gets flushed out of the pocket, the way that he makes this interception, how low it is, I don't know if Allen's throwing it away, if he realizes, okay, I'm trying to get this near a receiver. It almost looks like Allen recognizes, okay, I'm not going to be able to get to the sideline. I don't have anyone else available to me right now. And as such, since I've got pressure on me, it is a 3rd down. Josh Allen throws it near a receiver. I'm not sure why you don't just throw the ball out of bounds. Let's get the end zone angle, and you'll see a little bit better, I think, perspective of how great of a play this is. He's tracking across the field left to right, again behind Davis. So there he is, spot shadowed. One thing I want to mention about him that I've seen in the film from 60 plays that I grabbed off of NFL Pro and then 2 full complete games that I had already is he's very physical. It's almost reminiscent of Marlon Humphrey. Almost physical where he doesn't need to be. Now here, he's deciding to be physical. Again, tracking Davis across the field. Starts to get grabby here in the end zone. Make contact. I mean, clearly, if you're a Bills fan, you're going to complain about that contact downfield. Whether Allen is actually throwing this away by throwing it low, I'm not sure. Either way, it's a fantastic interception to go down and get. This is the type of thing that, other than Marlon Humphrey in recent years, and then when we had a healthy Marcus Peters, I don't remember too many other DBs in the last 10 or 12 years that the Ravens had who would make plays like that one. One thing I want to make sure I cover and reiterate is the daring that he plays with. Awareness, agility, confidence, all of those things, very high level when healthy, right? But the daring, as I mentioned in the lead in, he almost wants the quarterback to throw the football to him. I think there's tremendous coordination pre snap between Jaire Alexander and whatever safety, nickel, are on his side of the field and between him and corners on the opposite side of the field. This guy looks like a communicator to me on film. certainly doesn't look like someone who, at least for the film that I grabbed, isn't out. He's not just out there surviving on athletic ability. This one is 2022 film, and this is a concept that the Ravens have struggled with for years, dating back to Wink Martindale through the Mike McDonald couple of seasons here, and then with Zach Orr. I call it Yankee, different variations of it. This particular one, Amon-Ra St. Brown is down here. He's running the deep over concept. And Alexander pre-snap was communicating with the safety. And no, we have no idea what exactly was being said. All I do know is that once the play and these routes sort themselves out, it's a play action concept from a heavy personnel group. So you're expecting run and or play action. He breaks off of this vertical route, essentially releasing it to the safety, and then puts his foot in the ground downhill now for the interception. Now, there's not much positive happening after the interception. Again, the comparisons to Marlon Humphrey to me are kind of eerie at times with the troubles with injury. At a certain point in their career, after having an amazing start to their career in terms of turnovers, great coverage, and versatility, and then the returns after the interception not necessarily being something to call home about. But this concept is something the Ravens struggle with, whether it was three deep, three under, like the Packers are showing here, whether it was cover three, even going back to Justin Jefferson, I believe, a home game in Baltimore 2020. My apologies, 2021, the Sunday game before the Thursday Night Football debacle against the Miami Dolphins. We've long struggled with this concept. The corners carrying the vertical concept, and then this secondary route, choice number two, if you will, the deep over concept. I think it's really the target of the concept. Breaking open underneath of that clear out route, what in effect is a clear out route. Jaire Alexander, I've seen him 3 times, either make the interception, like this spot here, or take it away because of his reaction and what's been seen on film by the quarterback. One more interception, again against an AFC North opponent. He spot shadowed, NFC North opponent, excuse me. He spot shadowed down here at the bottom side of the screen. It's a cover 3. Ironically, the interception here is against Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother. But what I want to note here is the ability to put his foot in the ground and then burst downhill. A little bit of a skid, maybe by his left foot, but look, he's opening. And so he's caught here briefly, opening and trying to push off of his right foot and get depth in case it is a vertical route, and then sees the receiver change levels, puts his foot in the ground. You can say whatever you want about the guys throwing the interceptions. Here's one by Justin Fields. My follow-up video that I'll do, hopefully tomorrow morning, is going to be significant coverage of Alexander against Justin Jefferson late in the season 2022. And yes, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback there in Minnesota. But this is a guy who can move and I think get from point A to point B quicker than quarterbacks think when the football is in the air. And that's something that the Ravens need. Marlon Humphrey had 6 interceptions last year. Jaire Alexander had 2. I don't think he had any in 2023. He only played 7 games in 2023. 2022 had 5. I would say that from a coverage standpoint, he really reminds me of Marlon in that he's physical in the middle of the play, very aware both pre and post snap. And then if we're just going to take Marlon Humphrey from the 2024 version of Marlon Humphrey, he's a guy who can go get the football when it's in the air. Like I said, it's a little ironic that those 2 interceptions I showed you were the St. Brown brothers targeted. And as I said, the Ravens long struggled with that concept. So when I saw that play, in this case, against the Lions, the run personnel, the motion, and then play action, Alexander, the awareness to release that receiver to the safety and go get the football. Very agile, very smart. For him to be available at this price point, between $4 and $6 million, depending on how many games or how many snaps he plays, I think is pretty amazing. The ceiling here for Alexander, to me, is just much higher than Awuzie, who's a player that I think highly of, and I think he's got the ability to help the Baltimore Ravens in 2025. He's very good in coverage. Awuzie, again, if he's healthy. If you could get the 2022 version, Marlon Humphrey from Jaire Alexander, essentially healthy for most of the season, really solid play, but not his absolute ceiling. I'm talking about 88 to 90% of the ceiling, total potential for Jaire Alexander. and combine that with the 2022 version of Marlon Humphrey, I think we've got a great situation because we haven't even mentioned Nate Wiggins yet, a guy who made strides last year, played extremely well later in the season. The fact that we have four starting level outside corners, and this is probably going to push Marlon to that nickel slot or slot corner position more often than not. I think it's truly remarkable what the Ravens have been able to gather in terms of their secondary depth. Another interception here. This one's overthrown by Tua for the Dolphins, a concept that the Ravens saw a lot of in both of their last two matchups against Miami. Roquan Smith had an interception from the inside linebacker position against this one. Overthrown to Tyreek Hill. And you can see pretty much a gimme for Alexander. I think that this is where, as good as he is in man, in my opinion, I have no idea about PFF ratings or anything like that. This right here, his back to the sideline, his eyes to the quarterback, I think is about as dangerous a guy as we have on pass defense right now. Again, if he's healthy and if he's available for 15, 16, 17 games, his awareness of playing football during the play, I think, is incredibly high. And I want to take the Marlon Humphrey comparison even one step further. It's the variety of coverages, the variety of schemes that he seems to be able to play both efficiently and with tremendous impact. He reminds me of Marlon. The similarities, like I said earlier, are eerie, right? First round picks, high level defenders, great early career playmakers, and then injury issues kind of changed the dynamic at some point, right? Marlon specifically 2021. I think he returned to play fantastic in 2022. 2023, his injuries, especially in the playoffs or prior to the playoffs, really hurt the Ravens with their matchup against the Chiefs, if you ask me. These guys that we have offer tremendous depth, experience. I'm a big fan of this signing. Like I said, about 60 coverage snaps. I will do a follow up of Jaire Alexander versus Justin Jefferson in 2022 that I think is revealing about his level of confidence and the physicality with which he plays with against high level competition. Some film here of the Packers win on the road in the 2023, I believe, wild card round. It's going to be man on number one here on a 3rd and 2. I'll let this one flow through in the next play a couple of times. Very good in man. Exceptional, if you ask me, at seeing the quarterback pre-snap and then just after the snap, and then adjusting what he's going to do based upon what he sees, whether the quarterback looks to his side or not. This is a guy who reacts in a very disciplined manner, in my opinion, based upon the limited film that I have. Again, 2 games from 2024 against the Eagles, and then also the Texans, and then 60 other plays from 2022, 2023. Not targeted here. I felt like watching this game a couple of times through, I felt like Dallas was almost kind of avoiding him at times. This play in particular gives off a Marlon Humphrey vibe to me. You're more than welcome to let me know that you don't like that comparison, number one, or perhaps number two, you think I've gone too far with it. So it ends up being a bunch set, and the point man runs kind of like a China in, or what some people call a whip route. Watch how he gets physical with a smaller receiver once he makes his turn. And that's the part that really reminds me of Marlon Humphrey. I think to have the depth that we've got here, the accomplished talent in the secondary, not even mentioning so far, Kyle Hamilton and Starks, our first round pick, along with Chuck Pagano. We brought the safety coach over from the Chiefs. Shout out to the guys in the Discord for pointing that one out. Now, the sky is the limit. Now, I will rewind time a year ago. We had the same thoughts, the same feelings about our coverage leading into the 2024 season. And of course, we got shredded for the first 6, 7, 8, or even 9 weeks. I don't think that'll be the case here. This group is too talented to not have more to offer against the pass. I do want to show this a couple of times. If you do this, and Jaire Alexander, of course, this is the same play from the end zone angle, and he's off screen to our right. He's got eyes on the quarterback, and you as the quarterback are looking to his side immediately after the snap. I think this is an A++ football player when you allow him to see you and you're looking to his side. The routes are developing in front of him. I don't think he needs safety help when in man. I wouldn't say, based on my observation, that he's a zone corner or a man corner. I would say he's a guy who's good to very good in man, who, when in zone, is potentially the most dangerous guy that we've got on the defensive roster. And if you've been watching or listening to my content for a couple of years, you know how highly I think of Marlon Humphrey. I think clear cut All Pro season in 2024, borderline All Pro, but should have been a Pro Bowl designation easily in 2022, minus 4 or 5 plays. Alexander's change of direction skills, when healthy, kind of almost separate him a little bit. This is a huge, to have him and Awuzie in place of Stevens, right? Tremendous upgrade. No disrespect to Brandon Stevens. I actually wonder if Stevens is going to play well in Aaron Glenn's defensive structure. He's going to rely on so much man, and Stevens is a rock in terms of availability. But unless I've done my calculations incorrectly, for Awuzie and Alexander, we're paying the two of them less combined than Stevens gets for 2025 with the Jets, at least in terms of his average salary. That to me almost seems like a Madden result, right? You really couldn't draw it up in a realistic situation. If he's healthy, Alexander offers, well, what great athletes can do. He can be both fluid and sudden at the same time. Those guys who really make something look easy to stay balanced and then react immediately when the quarterback puts the ball in the air. A zone defensive structure or reaction from the Packers on a 3rd and 2 again in that 2023 wildcard matchup with the Cowboys. Almost kind of like a smash concept a little bit, very similar to the same route where he got an interception, where the number 3 is running kind of like this whip route or this China in return. Alexander zoning off. Watch him kind of react to the underneath concept and then recognize that he's possibly got a route developing over the top of him. So he gets a little bit more depth, late completion to the running back in the flats, multiple guys there for the tackle. I don't find him to be a tremendous asset in run defense. I don't think he's porous, perhaps inconsistent at times. I did think in this particular game, Dallas kind of started to go away from him and line up CeeDee Lamb in the slot to try to get easy completions against inferior coverage guys. Just 3rd and 6. He's going to be a man on number 1. This will be the last play that I show again. Kind of reminds me or gives off Marlon Humphrey vibes in that at a certain point in the route, he's got the confidence to put hands on the receiver in a way that perhaps some would say, hey, you're going to get called for a lot of penalties. Doing so, I think it's served him well over time. How much of that will the Ravens, want Alexander to do? How much of that does he continue to do? I think you can tell if he's healthy or not by one marker in particular, and that's how much and how often is he being physical with the receivers. When he was healthy in the film that I saw, he was making more contact, being more physical, kind of blurring the lines between what was legal and perhaps illegal in terms of his contact with receivers once the ball was snapped. There's a lot to say here in terms of final points. The allure or the draw of playing with Lamar and the fellow Hall of Famer that you have there with Derrick Henry in the backfield, even though Jaire Alexander plays on the opposite side of the football. It's a real dynamic. It's a real factor, if you ask me. But along with that, the relationship that they apparently had in college and their respect for one another. I think his awareness in zone is borderline scary, like I talked about earlier. And he's very capable in man, but based upon what I have seen, he gives us just so much more versatility and coverage, especially to the boundary. Again, a tremendous upgrade over Stevens, who was, generally located into the boundary or on the right side of the field. I do wonder if on this team with our current defensive structure, if we're going to go to a 4 cornerback system. And what I mean by that is have guys who have a preferred side, maybe a left side for Nate Wiggins, right side for Jaire Alexander, or vice versa, and play those guys interchangeably at times. I would hope that we are quite obviously aware of the injury history for Awuzie, Jaire Alexander, and to a lesser extent, Marlon Humphrey, dating back to 2023. It's a 17-game season. It's a long season. We've built up depth. I don't have any concerns about his, with so many stars on this team, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, first and foremost, but others on the defensive side. I don't have any concerns about dumb shit Um, the film doesn't offer opportunities for me to evaluate it. I really don't care about it at all. I have already heard from some Packers fans and even some Lions fans through messages on Discord or Twitter/X that this signing is overblown from a Ravens standpoint. Um, I don't think so because of the ceiling that he offers for such a low salary point. Between $4 and $6 million, the value here I think is obviously ridiculous, in that you get a potentially All Pro player for I think a third of what Stevens got with the Jets from a year yearly salary standpoint over the course of his 3 year deal. I think he compares favorably or right on par with Marlon in a lot of ways, coverage wise, and that's unfair because, like I said, Marlon has been available in 2024 and then available again in 2022, but that was sandwiched around a 2023 season where he missed a lot of time. I think it's interesting because I believe the Ravens think Alexander is going to come here healthy and he's going to get that extra 2 million, which he probably doesn't need financially, right? At least in terms of how much he's earned in his career so far. I think at 28 years old, for me, A++ signing for what it could be. I recognize that others would say A- or whatever. I don't know how you could call this a B+ or anything lower than that. Whether he's healthy for 17 games or not, I think he's motivated. The former, the health part, we won't know about until we get to and through the 2025 season. This, to me, again, reflects extremely well on what players across the league think of Lamar. We have the second offseason in a row where we've got amazing free agent signings. Now, Hopkins is a different dynamic or a different element than Jaire Alexander because Jaire Alexander was released, right? Could the Packers have signed him for this much money? I do think it's interesting to speculate on that a little bit for myself or for you or anyone. Did the Packers offer him something in the realm of between 4 and 6 million a year? I believe he was scheduled to get 17.25 million, somewhere in that range. I could be wrong there. Maybe it was as low as 13. A clear question mark in terms of his availability for the Packers, whether he wanted to be in Green Bay or not. He certainly seems happy in the pictures and some of the things that we saw. I think he was already out at Ravens practice this afternoon. From a schematic standpoint, I wonder if this means more dime on the field in obvious passing situations with Awuzie, Wiggins, Humphrey, and now Alexander out there alongside safeties Hamilton and Starks. That's six very talented, smart, capable, tough as nails defensive backs who provide versatility and bring ball skills to the forefront, along with what they can do in terms of coverage. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, I did want to announce or make it be known that myself and EA, Edgar Allen, are trying to, we're in the midst of trying to document as many of the Ravens coverages from 2024 as possible and organize them in a manner such that we can present it probably during training camp or during the preseason and offer a summary judgment on what coverages the Ravens played, what they played well, when, and perhaps why Zach Orr and the staff decided to play those coverages in certain locations, and even try to replicate or provide that data on a weekly basis based upon the Ravens' performances on Sunday and Monday Night Football when they play there. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you think other Ravens fans would like to see this content and my thoughts, as well as some of the film from Jaire Alexander, what was available for 2022 and 2023, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.